Hello and welcome along to the Rugby Pod. Big Jim and Goodey are here as usual to look back at the final weekend of the longest Six Nations ever. And we're brought to you this week by Beer 52. It's award season at Beer 52 HQ. And this month they're sending out a case of their highest rated beers over the last 12 months as voted by their 150,000 members. So basically it's the best of the best. If you've been on the fence about trying it, now is the time. Each case also comes with an award-winning beer magazine, as well as some snacks. Here you go, Goody.
What's in the magazine, though?
Yes, please.
What kind of magazine? Goody, you liked back in the day magazines. Yeah, mags, and snacks.
Just snacks for me now. Can't read.
Well, mate, it wasn't the words, mate. It was the pictures.
There's no minimum commitment. You can just take the free case, try the beers and see what you think. And if it's not for you, you can pause or cancel at any time. All you need to do is go to beer52.com/rugby and cover the postage. That's the word beer followed by the number 52.com/rugby to get your first case of 8 beers for free. And you'll be supporting the Rugby Pod as well by doing so.
Well, looking at the beers, and it's award season, the best beers, they're only going to be English beers, aren't they, boys? Hey? Only going to be English beers. Now we're champions again.
Yeah, it was hardly the Six Nations, though. I'll tell you what, though, before we talk about that, Goody, I don't know whether you saw me on Premier Sports on Monday night last night.
I didn't know. Who's watching now?
Tuesday. Mate, Glasgow playing Leinster. I got Haskelled, mate, before the game. I got I lost it. I said something that I swore I'd never do. I lost it on live TV. I should have had a couple of Beer 52 settlers before I went on there, mate, just to calm the cobbles, mate. You know when you get the producer in your ear, I'm talking about a bit of play around Glasgow's box kicking game. Just delving deep into the archives of knowledge to deliver to the millions.
Who are you?
I don't know. I'm Jean Valjean.
This isn't the Jim that I know.
I've got a moustache, mate, so I just felt like I had to deliver something different. And anyway, I didn't. It was an absolute shit show. I got spoken in the ear by fault or design by the producer, and I went off like Haskell did that time on Sky Sports.
Well, the lucky thing for you is no one watches that Pro 14 on Premier Sports. So
I'll say that.
You can.
Goody, how was your week, mate?
Goody's got an edge on him today. Look, something ain't right. Something ain't right with him today. Something's happened. What's happened?
No, nothing. It's just I'm trying to think now. We're recording on a different day, so it's thrown out the schedule a little bit. You know, I'm working hard. I'm playing golf. Golf courses are closing, so I'm devastated. But we're moving into another lockdown, lads, aren't we?
Not in Scotland, we're not, mate.
Oh, you're up in Scotland again, are you?
Scotland, we're not, mate. Hey, don't take it out of me. Don't get all arsey because things are different up here, mate.
No, we're all good. So we're moving into another lockdown. But luckily, what I can say is the nanny can still come every day to work at the minute because childcare is essential.
Essential,
yeah.
Mate. It is essential.
So, it's tough times, isn't it, for a lot of people. A lot of the unknowns going into lockdown. Restaurants are closed, but they can do takeaways. So luckily, the local kebab house is still open. So pretty happy with that. But pubs, boozers, golf courses, all the other things I like, they're all closed on Thursday.
Will we be helping out to eat out but don't eat out, but eat out but don't?
Mate, who knows? I'll be getting takeaways still, so don't you worry about that. Mixed honour and chicken shish kebab. How good.
Well, Manscaped are supporting us again this week, and they're the very best in below-the-waist grooming, so they couldn't really be a better fit for us. And they're offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels.
If you haven't tried it, believe me, it's an absolute game changer. And look, I'm reading that out loud, right, because it's almost like the tagline. But I've got to be honest, it's been a while. I'm a bit worried. We're going into winter. I don't know whether manscaping during the winter is going to be a great thing. But everything I'm reading and hearing is meant to be unbelievable during the winter, like unbelievable. So we'll find out. I'll let you know. I'll let you know in a couple of weeks how it's going.
Just head to manscaped.com and you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code RugbyPod. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code RugbyPod. Your balls will thank you. Well, let's get into the rugby now. And England are Six Nations champions again, aren't they, Goody, for a third time in 5 years under Eddie Jones?
Yes, it is. And it's obviously the weirdest Six Nations ever. The massive delay, the fact that stadium are empty again. And you're looking at games now, and it was kind of all right when you were trying to squeeze in the rest of the Premiership season and some of the games like that. But when just international rugby kicks off and you see an empty stadiums. How shit is it?
Yeah, it's mate. It is like there's no getting away from it. It's really weird. Like the anthems and that. How weird must it be? And I was there for the Scotland-Georgia game, so I was pitch side for that. And you got a couple of guys making their debuts and stuff, but
it's so tough, isn't it? And
yeah, it is. Yeah,
and you look at it and you go, the actual rugby across the weekend wasn't great. England are champions, of course we are. We bounced back from that round 1 spanking down in France. That wasn't a spanking because it was pretty crucial that we got the bonus point in the end. But it was underwhelming, the performances over the weekend. England kicked a lot of ball away. Just imagine being Ben Youngs right now. And I watched it when he's running out for his 100th cap. Imagine if that was at a packed out Stadio Olimpico, whether you're an Italian fan or there'd be loads of English fans over there, and you're running out for your 100th cap. And it was just so weird because obviously they come up the stairs there, don't they? And he's running out. He didn't know, he had no one to look at. No, he can't even wave to the crowd, can't even do anything. It was just, this is so fucking awkward.
Maximus Decimus Aurelius.
He's
probably looking for him.
Yeah. And in reality, that's the way the games went. There was no atmosphere, clearly, because there was no one in the stadiums. And the games weren't the best. Actually, the best game was France.
Scotland. Oh.
Mate, the Scotland game. I don't that's not even worth talking about, that game.
What do you mean it's not worth talking about, mate?
Well, apart from it's Scotland's first win in Wales in the Six Nations since 2002.
And what?
And you still finished 4th. How about that one, Jim?
Well, mate, it doesn't matter. Mate, we beat Wales, mate. That's all. I predicted it, so I'm happy.
Yeah. But, I mean, rugby-wise, England, job done. It was England's performance. They just kicked so much possession away. And it was clearly a tactic. And I just sit there and I think, are the players completely ingrained in whatever Eddie says they do? Is there a license to change things? Look, you see the back three hardly counter-attack, did they? A lot of it was just kick, and wait for a mistake, which I understand is clearly a tactic and a game plan that you employ at the start of the game and see how things develop. But, it was job done. We got the bonus point. It wasn't a particularly great game to watch, and we put pressure on Ireland to go and win by 7 points or more, and they absolutely capitulated, didn't they?
Just going back to your point on the caps, and again, thinking about this and watching it unfold and listening to Alun Wyn-Jones after the game, I actually feel more sorry for the guys that are making their first cap. I know there's milestones of 50, which is amazing, 100, which is phenomenal, 149, which is unthinkable. But these lads who are at that point, like Youngsley, for example, it's amazing to get 100 caps, but he's had them experiences of the massive highs, winning Grand Slams, playing in big games, his first cap, his 50th cap. These lads, you don't know whether they'll get another cap. You know what I mean? That initial feeling of winning the cap for Ollie Lawrence, Tom Dunn, we saw the videos going viral after the match. They're the ones that I feel the most sorry for. I know there's a load of other stuff out with sport going on, right? So this is us specifically talking about rugby and their moments. I think we spoke about it last week, or I've spoken about it somewhere before. That first cap moment, not just for you, but for your family, for your coaches, for your teachers, for anyone that's been involved in your career as a player, that I think, the first cap is the one that people speak about. And, for Youngsy, for example, making 100, it's absolutely phenomenal. What about Eddie Jones? Mate, he's going to get 150. That's when you know that, your coach likes you, eh? And this is the thing. And again, you're watching it and you're like, these lads, doesn't matter what they do. Doesn't matter what Youngsy does for Leicester, clearly. Mate, he's in. As long as Eddie Jones is there, Youngsy's in, for whatever reason.
Yeah. And I think we spoke about it last week, didn't we? Youngsy, he's a different player in an England shirt to what he is in a Leicester shirt. And if you're a
smart.
Well, yeah, if you're a Leicester coach or a fan, you'd be like, why doesn't he play that like that for Leicester? And it's not perhaps just symptomatic of him. Leicester have been through a tough time over the last few years, but Ben Youngs is a player that grows when he puts the England shirt on. He scored a couple of tries, gets man of the match. And he is a real kind of, what's the word I'm after? He's the guy that tries to ignite a lot of pace around the game for us. And he's playing. He's confident in England shirt, probably because Eddie has backed him to the hill. And like you said, Jim, there ain't ever a chance that Eddie's not picking him unless he's injured. So. And going back to the first cap thing that you talked about, Ollie Lawrence, we sat with his old man at a dinner a couple of years ago in Worcester, and his old man was talking about it. We spoke about it last week. That's the one, actually. imagine being the dad and seeing your son get his first cap. You know, I think back to my first cap. My old man, he always said to me, you know, the first time he wanted to go to Twickenham was to watch me play there. You know, and obviously then that leads into playing for Leicester and all that stuff. But then your first cap, it's a memory that you have with your family for a long time. Sing the anthem, you pick your parents out in the crowd and all that stuff. But yeah, Ollie Lawrence, Tom Dunn, the emotion would be there, would have been huge, but so disappointing for them that they can't have friends and family with them.
What do you make of the debutants?
Johnny Hill I thought he played really well. He was probably a little bit nervous at one point. The yellow card was fair, but you're watching that and you've got a French TMO. And are you sat there being Johnny Hill thinking, I don't know the stat, would he be the first player ever to get sent off on debut for England? I'm sure it would be. And you sat there thinking, no, please don't. No, my name is Armand Poit, and I think it is a red card. He didn't say that, luckily. But, you know, at that split second, he's trying to make an impact on a tackle and just gets it slightly wrong. Luckily for him, the player dipped in reality, so there was mitigating circumstances. But, yeah, his heart would have been in his, well, people say mouth, but it's probably in his arse for a few minutes while they deliberated over what the sanction was going to be.
Mate, Italy, to be fair, as we always say, first half they rocked up. They were quite physical. They wanted. Looks like they wanted to have a scrap.
Yeah,
and yeah,
and that's all. In reality, though, watching the game and watching it back, that's all they had, and it's so frustrating. They, you know, I watched an exit play. They've got a line out about 10 metres outside the 22, and they've passed it back 20 yards to the 10 to boot it about 5 yards past where the line out was from. I just think, you know, I sit there and watch a game, and they came with heart. You know, Pellegrini carried well. They wanted to get in England's faces. There was, you know, they played a very limited game plan around, let's not play any rugby on our own half. Let's just kick the leather off it and force a team to play from deep. But I just didn't see any threat from them. And, you know, the whole rumblings come back around. Do they deserve to be in the Six Nations? Is there, you know, they haven't won a game since Jim, you lost to them for Scotland, I think. And, yeah, it was so down. It was just a kick fest, both teams. You know, England could have won that game comfortably, I think, by 30, 40, 50 points.
I said 50. You were like, no. Yeah. I thought it was going to be 50, but yeah, I mean, it weren't, as we know.
But they did show a lot of heart, and Pellegrini, my God, he's a beast, didn't they? Say it every time I see him play. Carries hard.
You mentioned before about the kicking, Goody. Why do you think they were kicking so much?
I think to start off with in the game, you know, it's an England principle, isn't it? You know, you talk about the great New Zealand sides, and then stats come out around New Zealand used to kick it more than any other international team, and you know, this is when they were dominating World Rugby for a few years. Now, England obviously play that tactical game. Whoever they play against, you go back to the Ireland game in the Six Nations, a truckload of kick in there. But I think you've got to be able to adapt, and I don't think we adapted really throughout the game to trying to create attacking opportunities. I think we just got stuck in a rut of this is how we play, this is what we do. Keep beating that drum, keep, you know, knocking the door down around playing territory, and mistakes will come. Sometimes, you know, we've seen some of the Premiership rugby where tries have been scored for fun. Across the whole of the international game at the weekend, bar the All Blacks, actually, no, I can't say that. Across some of the Six Nations games, or two of them, the Wales, Scotland one and the England, France one, it was just kick and chase, and it was fairly dour, wasn't it? No one really changed game plans. The weather was horrific, to be fair, in Wales at times, but yeah, it was just a bit dull, a bit of a anticlimax. But if you're Eddie Jones, do you care? Probably not. You've just won the third Six Nations title in 5 years, and you know the job was to get the bonus point and set Ireland a target. The one thing that does, and you know, you'll never know the answer to this because ultimately Ireland lost to France, but you think back the week when Italy scored with the last play of the game, and you talk about mindsets in a game, right? So Italy scored a try against Ireland, last play of the game. Ireland watched England's game unfold, and they knew they had to win by 7 points. I'm pretty sure that they got stuck in between thinking, can we win by 7 points? Do we need to get the 4 tries? Had it have just been a fact of they didn't concede that last try against Italy the week before, and they only had to beat France because that was the way it would have panned out with the points difference, they'd have played that game completely differently in France, I think. And that's the beauty of these bonus points that have been introduced into the Six Nations over the last few years. Ireland, you know, you saw them going to the corner when you know full well a Sexton-led Irish team would have just been kicking goals, taking the points, building scores, and then, you know, the building blocks of a victory to get to that point. And then ultimately, because they were chasing what they thought was always going to be 4 tries to guarantee themselves the title, they end up having their pants pulled down a bit, and France were bloody outstanding at times.
What do you make of Johnny Sexton's reaction to getting replaced?
I mean, what can you say? You can understand why as captain. And I was trying to think of what other captains that happens to, right? Where there's a player leading their team, must-win game, and gets taken off, not pulled off. I wouldn't say he got pulled off, he got taken off. So, Sia Khaleesi never really plays 80 minutes. He normally gets taken off at around 55, 60. Dylan Hartley, when he played for England as captain, he used to get taken off. I'm trying to think if there's any high-profile players. I think the issue is with Sexton is that it's a 10. You very rarely see you fly half getting taken off, do you? Normally, your fly half is the best player on the pitch. So if it's a must-win game, especially with Sexton, we saw what he did a couple of years ago in Paris, drop goal to win the game. Ireland, like Goody said, needed more than just to win the game. So, I don't know. And this is why I asked Stevie last week. It wasn't me being out of order. Ireland need to have something in the back of their mind of what their team looks like without Johnny Sexton. And it's life. It's not me being horrible. It's a fact of life. Now, Ross Byrne needs, you know, or Jack Carty, whoever comes in, or, you know, Madigan, if he gets back into the squad at any point. These lads need an opportunity to get on there under complete pressure. Maybe Farrell thought it was unwinnable. I don't know. Or the fact that they weren't going to get the points they needed to win the game. But his reaction it's a difficult one because you can look at it 2 ways. You can look at it, he's passionate, loves his team, or you can look at it that he's throwing his toys out of his pram, because you know as a player, when you come off, the camera's going to be on you, especially if Johnny Sexton, your captain. You know as soon as you get yanked off, whatever's in your thought process, in your mind, is that the cameras are going to be on me now. The camera's going to be on me because they know, one, I'm captain, I'm pissed off, or because I'm Johnny Sexton, whatever. And how you conduct yourself is going to be a reflection on you and your team. So I've not heard anything come out of it. Is there anything come out, Goody?
Yeah, well, he actually said he did an interview and he said, "What do you expect me to be? Really pleased I'm being hooked off?" No. You know, he was, and it's kind of a way of showing his disappointment. To me, I looked at it and I thought, he's properly looking up at the coaches, shaking his head. You could see him look up, shake his head, and, you know, look down and then look up again, shake his head, not happy. And, you know, he's the captain, he's the leader, you understand it. He is, and, you know, people that know him and people that chat about him, he's the ultimate competitor, isn't he? You know, he wants to win at absolutely everything, whether it's a little training game, whether it's, you know, a test match, whether it's probably, you know, a race up the stairs with his missus, whatever. That's the way he is. So sometimes your emotions do spill over. People, like you said, Jim, people will look at it and go, it's petulant, it's the wrong thing to do. Other people will go, no, actually, I like that because he's fucking frustrated that he's being taken off. Ireland are losing the game. They had a chance to win the Six Nations and it hasn't manifested itself into a brilliant performance. So, yeah, I mean, like Jim says, the fulcrum of any team, and we have, you always seem to have a debate around the 10s. You know, look at Finn Russell with Scotland. You know, the way, you know, the big news, Finn got kicked out of the squad, and, you know, it's like, there you go, Adam Hastings, you have a go. But everyone was like, we need to get Finn back, because he's the main man. There's always the argument with England, who's your 10? You know, people were berating George Ford, and I've been there berating him on form, but Eddie Jones loves him and picks him. You know, you move Farrell back to 10 now because, you know, George Ford is injured. You know, we saw in the World Cup there was a couple of chops and changes with, you know, one of the games when he dropped George Ford, and then he played him in the final as well, when they perhaps should have picked Owen Farrell. It's such an imperative position on the field that you see a lot of clubs and a lot of international teams, you know, unless you've got someone like in New Zealand where you can have Barrett at fullback and Moanga at 10, there's always a debate around 10, isn't there, when you've got quality players and a team, and I think you said it last week or the week before, Jim, a team needs that stability to know who the boss is, who's at 10. If you've got two people vying for the same shirt and you then start to get some mixed messages and you try and shoehorn a player in for a bit of time, then it's difficult. And understandably, frustration boiled over for Johnny Sexton, but Jim's also right. And
Thank you, mate. No,
you are right, that you have to have a plan B. And you have, the only way of getting a plan B, and we should see it hopefully in the autumn Nations tournament where they've got 4 games. Every team's got 4 games. You know, you expect a little bit of rotation. I don't expect Sexton to start every game. You know, I don't expect Farrell to start every game. Will they? Probably. Who knows? But you need to be looking beyond just Johnny Sexton, beyond just Owen Farrell. It's the debate we had last week about Joe Simmons.
And when you're debating that, and the obvious couple of examples that I want to talk about, Sergio Parisse. Now, I heard Sergio Parisse talking about when he's going to play for Italy again for his swan song. So Italy are going to grant him that because it's Sergio Parisse. Now, you wonder in what other team that would happen, right? So you have a look around. Alun Wyn-Jones, okay, that's the point that I want to get to. I'm kind of stuttering to get to this point. So Alun Wyn-Jones, 149 caps. Now, what is the thinking in Wales now? What is the thinking around the Lions? Is Alun Wyn-Jones going to go on the Lions tour because he's Alun Wyn-Jones? Or is Alun Wyn-Jones going to go on the Lions tour because he's the best of 4 second rows? And this is the conversation. It's around Sexton as well. Like, he expects to play because he's Johnny Sexton. But at what point do you have to take the emotion out? Well, Andy Farrell's done that for whatever reason. Clearly, it wasn't spoken about for Johnny Sexton because he wouldn't have been pissed off. He would have been like, well, I kind of know that it's coming. You know, the same goes for Alun Wyn-Jones. A lot of people are saying, oh, he's going to go on the Lions tour. Now, you look at it.
You're not picking him for the Lions tour then?
In my opinion, he's not in the best 4 second rows. He's not. I mean, I'd say Johnny Hill's playing better than him. I'd say across the board, in terms of where we stand now, is Alun Wyn-Jones in the top 4 second rows? So Marrow,
yeah.
James Ryan,
yeah.
Okay, for Ireland. Now, he's not in the form that he was, but in my opinion, he's still playing better than Alun Wyn-Jones. And what is better? So what is better? It's carrying the ball. It's defensively. It's line out. Mate, there's no doubt about it that Alun Wyn-Jones is still a fantastic player. Like, he absolutely is.
Why are you being horrible? Because he used to dominate you.
Mate, he did used to dominate me, mate. Yeah, but I kneed him in the eye once, and he didn't even flinch. And I almost broke my kneecap. Like, I'll be honest, mate. First maul, ran into the maul. I thought, who's this Alun Wyn-Jones? He's having it. Kneed him straight in the eye because you're allowed to do that then. And split his eye, and he didn't even flinch, and had a dead leg for the rest of the game. So maybe that's what it is. You know, Scott Cummins from Scotland. I don't care what you say, mate.
You finished 4th, pal. You finished 4th.
Wales finished 5th. So the position of it, like where you're going to go. So I've named 4 second rows there. So Maro Itoje, James Ryan, Johnny Hill, and Scott Cummins. In my opinion, is Alun Wyn-Jones the 5th or 6th? Well, this is up for debate. This is the thing. So my point comes back to, and I know that Alun Wyn-Jones, you listen to him speak, it's not about amassing 150, 160, whatever caps he could potentially get to. But Wales are in this transition period.
Yeah, true.
Is at what point do they say, and I'm not saying now is the time, it could be next year, but at some point Alun Wyn-Jones is going to need to make way because there needs to be an evolution for Wales and there needs to be a change of guard. But maybe it's me because as a player, there was no loyalty towards me. Look at how I got bombed out of the squad in 2015. I'm watching it, and it all comes back to Sexton's thing. So Sexton's walking off the pitch like that. I'm like, if I ever did that, I don't think I would have got picked again. If I would have looked up and shaking my head at the coaches. So why is he allowed to do that? Because he's the ultimate competitor. Like, why is Alun Wyn-Jones allowed to go on the Lions tour? Because he's been a phenomenal player. So going back to the Alun Wyn-Jones point, I'm bouncing back and forth here. And again, this is just my mindset at the minute. It might change next week. Is if Alun Wyn-Jones goes on the Lions tour, he's taking the place of a Scott Cummins or a Johnny Hill or someone that has never been on a Lions tour, and it might be there, or a Johnny Gray. It might be their only opportunity to go. So, I love the fact that there's still, the romance hasn't died in rugby, and there still is that around the Sergio Parisse factor. Of course, I want to see him go out one last time. If he's 45, I'd still like to see it because it's Sergio Parisse. But I'm talking about it on a level and trying to be quite neutral about it, looking forward to the summer if the Lions tour goes ahead.
A couple of things on that. Imagine Sergio Parisse at 45. He'd still be a beautiful specimen, wouldn't he?
Mate, he's lost all
65. 65, he'd still be beautiful.
Mate, he's got an incredible head. That's all I'm saying. He looks phenomenal.
And secondly, I guarantee if Alun Wyn-Jones is fit, and you're saying if he goes on Lions tour, he's taking a place of someone else. You got to think about the coach, right? You got to think about Warren Gatland, the experience that he has with Alun Jones, the detail that Alun Jones will bring to his own performances, his own, the homework he does off the field, the leadership. I reckon, if you're naming the top 4 second rows there now, you're naming Maro Itoje, James Ryan, Scott Cummins, and Johnny Hill as the 4 best second rows, in your opinion, Jim, in the British and Irish Lions picture right now. You're taking 3 guys with limited experience. James Ryan's got a fair bit, but Scott Cummins and Johnny Hill have got very limited international experience. So you've got to take Alun. You need a balance, don't you? And the fact that Warren Gatland knows him so well, and Warren Gatland is right now on the other side of the world, and actually Warren Gatland has said they're going to potentially take a smaller squad. Alun Jones, if he's fit, if I had a mortgage, I'd put it on that he's going.
But I agree with you. I think he will go, and I understand the reasons why,
and deservedly.
But it comes down to really you need to take the best players. And what Warren Gatland speaks about winners. Mate, Wales are 5th. I don't want to be horrible. They're not the team that they were. For whatever reason, they're not the team that they were. It comes down to the point of the romance side of it, or if I'm a player, right? If I'm a player and, whatever. I mean, does Johnny Hill expect to go on the lines? No, he doesn't. Obviously, he wants to go. Does he expect he'll go? No. Does he think that Alun Jones will go in front of him? Yeah, of course he does. It's Alun Jones.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the simple facts of ability and wanting to win games. If you put Johnny Hill in the team ahead of Alun Jones, are they going to beat South Africa? I don't know. We don't know, because Alun Jones plays a certain style that arguably would be good against South Africa. But I'm just talking about the romance of the game and the loyalties that lie with some players that don't lie with other players.
Yeah.
And, maybe there's a part of me that I feel burned by that situation. And it comes back to the Sexton point.
And you should have been a British and Irish line as well, Jim, I think.
I hand on heart, think I should have.
Can I just go back to the Sexton point? Does it show, if you've got a leader, if you've got a captain, does it show an element of division there for him to be reacting like that towards a coach?
Yeah, you can dissect it with Jim's dirty open cloth and look at it from all different angles. What we do know is Sexton ain't used to being taken off, right? And he's been the leader of that team for quite some time. There was the battle with O'Gara years ago that he obviously came through. O'Gara then retires. And now, he's the captain, he's the leader. And he'd have felt, knowing Johnny Sexton, he'd have felt completely that whatever the score was, he could have still changed the game to help them to win. And that was, you can look at it as there's an issue. I'm sure Andy Farrell's not looking at it as an issue. He'll have a word in Johnny Sexton's ear and say, let's talk this through. But he ain't going to cause a massive drama with his captain because of how influential Sexton is. And let's not forget, there's 4 games coming up of the Autumn Nations Cup, which they may rotate a little bit. But when England play Ireland, unless Johnny Sexton's injured, I guarantee he'll play. And, you then lead into the Six Nations next year when hopefully we're back to some sort of normality and, they'll be wanting to compete for that to win the title again.
How impressed have you guys been with France in this tournament? And looking at Antoine Dupont, is he the best half in the world at the moment, best number 9?
Yeah, hands down, right now, Antoine Dupont is the best 9 in the world without a shadow of a doubt. Aaron Smith's obviously, up there as probably number 2. But, mate, Dupont has got shit that no other 9's got. He reads the game, his explosiveness, his speed, he's
so quick. So quick. His
ability to snipe and just create something. He's finishing off tries because he's running those 9 cheat lines that are way in front of the ball. Everything he touches turns to gold at the minute. And, he's in the form of his life. He really is. And he does it week in, week out for France, for Toulouse. He's a quality operator. So no question he's the best 9 in the world.
They're so physical, France. That's why. And again, you'll know if you've played the game at any level that if you're forward on the front foot, it's a lot easier for you 9 and 10. But I think him and Intermac, a phenomenal combination. But for me, it's the physicality now of this French team and also their appetite to keep working. So how many times have you seen line breaks before and the French are just walking back with their hands in the air? That seems to have gone. I think the rumours that I'm hearing that was still a tough thing for Sean Edwards when he went in there as defence coach was really trying to change that mindset of when things aren't going right, that you've got to be able to front up and front up.
Fucking energy, fucking
T-Mag. And
fucking smashing, get in line, lean on bar.
And then you look at like Bernard LaRue, who ate poo, playing in that team as well. The kind of physicality that he possesses with Gregory, who's Aldry as well, is something that, again, we've spoken about it on here before. Goody's watched a lot more of the top 14 than me. The names of these French players weren't, or probably still aren't really, rolling off the tongue. They've got some standout players in that team, but just collectively, I just think they look so good. And I genuinely think that the next World Cup, that France are going to be well in with a shout.
Jim, you want to talk about Scotland?
Yes, please. Yeah,
Big win at Cardiff.
It should have at least been the second thing we spoke about. I don't mind chatting about England winning the Six Nations, but Scotland should have been second on the agenda, but they're not. But we'll leave it to the end. Told you, mate. Absolute classic. Loved it.
Hey, what a game. What a absolutely dull game of rugby.
Mate, it's
do you know what I thought?
Rugby, mate. You've got to win. That's it.
Do you know what I thought? You know when Finn Russell went off injured? Like, he made a half-decent tackle, and then he's hobbled off. Was it a dead leg or a knee or whatever it was?
Oh, it looks worse than that.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, I think it's his groin, yeah.
Okay. Well, when Finn makes a bit of a big hit in defence, I say big hit, he got in the way of a big ball carrier. He goes off injured. I'm just sat there going, he don't want it today. He don't want it today. The weather looks shocking, and it's a dour game, and it's basically the Battle of the Wooden Spoon, isn't it? And then
no.
It was the Battle of the Wooden Spoon, pretty much. Well, not the official Wooden Spoon, because obviously Italy are winning that, but the Wooden Spoon, i.e. finishing fourth, the Wooden Spoon, i.e. finishing fifth, which Scotland generally win year on year.
Well, it doesn't matter, mate. Beat Wales, down, in, well, it weren't Cardiff, just down the road. We went to Wales and won, mate. That's it, and that's all that matters. And now we can give Scotland crap, or Goody can give Scotland crap. Let's go through it. France, Italy, Georgia, Wales. Mate, we are on a roll. Absolutely. Now, let's get into it. Conditions were poor, Goody. Mate, they were. You can't get away from that. The line-out was a non-starter. I thought that Andrew Brace could have let the line-out go. He didn't, so we saw a load of scrums, which I don't mind as well, because we've got a good scrum at Scotland. But it was a much-needed win for Scotland. Now, I don't know what's happened in this Welsh team. There's a lot of talk under Pivac and the direction that they're going, but they're in transition. And I fully expected Scotland to win. The score line, actually, I thought flattered Wales. Rhys Carey's try came off, Scotland being in Coffin's corner, trying to get out. They had a line out, and again, spoke about the line out, conditions were poor, no one could hit a barn door, and the call was actually all right, but there was a penalty at the line out. Shane Lewis-Hughes has been on Scott Cummins. I put it on Twitter.
Mate, excuses, mate. Excuses.
No, we won the game. It's not excuses. But my point being is Scotland won that game comfortably. The breakdown. So the breakdown defensively, Stuart Hogg mentioned it on here a couple of weeks ago around, well, there was a couple of things that he spoke about which I thought were very poignant. One was, forget talking about World Cups and winning Six Nations and Autumn Nations Cup, win test matches. I just said it before. France, Italy, Georgia, now Wales, Scotland are now winning test matches, whereas before they win a game, lose a game, win a game, lose 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 a game, lose, wooden spoon. Now, they're not doing that, but the defence is a lot better. The breakdown, and again, I've spoken about Jamie Ritchie on here, it's easy to say, let's pick a Scotland player for the Lions tour. It's phenomenal at the breakdown. Like, how can he not go on the Lions tour? Like, what he does every time he plays test match rugby is phenomenal around the breakdown, line out, carrying ability. So now we've got some real quality. Finn goes off injured, which was not great with a groin. We know that Adam's been playing 10. That's Finn's first start. Adam Hastings goes off as well. He was actually really good when he came on, but it looks like he's dislocated his shoulder. You know what that means? Donkey wear. You're in, mate. Don't get your lid out, mate. You're in. But look, I was happy for Scotland now, because I genuinely don't think that. Well, I know we're not. It's not about thinking. I know we're not the whipping boys we were before. And I think that things could have been very different had we beaten Ireland in the first game of the Six Nations. The England conditions were really poor in that match. We're proper now.
And you could have won that game against England as well.
Exactly, mate. We're proper now. And I put it on Twitter. Of course I did. I put everything at the weekend, just living my life through there. Family ain't happy. But I put there, the Lions put something about who's going. I've put at least 10 Scots. O'Driscoll's called me out. Did you see him?
Yeah, it was brilliant, actually.
Mate, what's he talking about? He's talking about the fact that Finn and Hoggy might go, and the kit man and the physio from the Scotland team. And mate, he could be right. Jamie Ritchie said maybe he spelled his name wrong, but it's Brian O'Driscoll, mate. Whatever he says, I believe, I'll be honest.
It's interesting. Like, they are, as much as I get stuck into Jim a little bit about Scotland because it's good fun and banter, they are turned to a proper outfit now, aren't they? That you can see. You can see him competing. And the big one, you talk about this Autumn Nations Cup that's coming up. Scotland have got France, Italy, and Fiji in the Autumn Nations Cup.
7 on the bounce.
Are you backing yourselves to beat France? Because if you do that and you get to the final against England, hell of a game. Hell of a game coming.
Oh, good.
Jim, where do you think the Scotland team can go? Do you think they're on the rise, or do you think they're peaking? What's the limit for this team?
Scotland, where can they go? Hey, we spoke to Hoggy, and you've got to manage expectation here going forward. I was at the Glasgow Leinster game last night. #always Edinburgh beat Scarlets. Small playing pool. You need to have some of your best players playing out with the Pro 14 because we've only got 2 teams. So it's great to see Johnny Gray. I think he's improved at Exeter. Hoggy, we all know about Hoggy. Finn, we all know about Hoggy. But it also gives players the opportunity. I mentioned Scott Cummins when we were chatting about the Alun Jones thing. We've got Ollie Kebble now. I think he's an outside shot for the Lions, just on his sheer size, and he's been brilliant when he's come on. We've got 2 really good hookers. We're thin in some areas. Do we have a big ball carrier when we come up against a South Africa, a New Zealand, an England year in, year out? But we're definitely getting better, because there was talk last year of Gregor Townsend getting the sack and Cockers coming in. So it's amazing how quickly it can turn around. For me, the big thing is the players are now being exposed to top-level rugby and winning things. Exeter, we've got 2, 3, 4 players down there, obviously in the squad now with Hoggy and Johnny Gray. We've got 2 nailed-on starters for Scotland, winning Champions Cups, winning Premierships. The big thing will be how many lads can get on the Lions tour and get the experience of being coached by Warren Gatland and being in an environment where you can win, arguably, and this is maybe a good debate. Is winning a Lions tour in South Africa bigger than winning the World Cup? I don't know.
No.
Okay, well, Goody says no. Some people might say yes. A test series in '97. I mean, who knows? But if Scotland players get an opportunity to be in that environment properly, and someone like Jamie Ritchie gets an opportunity because he's one of the best back rows in the British and Irish leagues at the minute, then who knows? Who knows where they can go? But Hoggy mentioned it, didn't he? Each test at a time.
Mate, to be fair, for a Scotland player, it would be a bigger achievement to win and be an integral part of a British and Irish Lions tour, because you've got no fucking chance of ever winning the World Cup.
Well, in 2015, if it's a 2-step log, we would have made it. We would have played Argentina. We would have played Argentina in the semi, and we would have poisoned the food of the New Zealanders.
Let it go. Let it go.
You talk about where Scotland could go. Well, where have Wales gone?
Into reverse.
What do you mean it's Alun Wyn-Jones' fault, Andy Rowe? Mate, you can't say that. The guy is an absolute hero. Where Wales... Look, Goody, before you give your view on this, I'll give my quick superficial one. I don't know what they expected. I don't know what people expected from this Welsh team now that are in transition. So let's look at the lay of the land. You've got your professional teams competing in the Pro 14, and they've not really done much. Scarlets have been okay. Ospreys have been shocking. Cardiff have been okay in fits and starts. Dragons have been shocking, right? So this is me speaking completely frankly. They're not doing anything in Europe whatsoever. And you're now a team in transition. You look at the profile of some of their best players. Anscombe's been injured. You've got Dan Bigger playing in Northampton, so you're relying on 110, really, not being asked to Reece Patchell, who's been away. You've got Alun Wyn-Jones, who isn't in this prime. I don't really know what people are expecting. I know why they're expecting it. It's because Wales have been so good. And if you speak to anyone who knows the game and spoke to Warren, and having interviewed Warren and kind of read his book and looked a little bit into things, Wales have always overachieved. That's been the most impressive thing. Think about the World Cup. You're thinking there is no chance they are getting to the semi-final. they get to the semi-final. They nearly beat South Africa with half the team. And that for me was their peak. That's where they reached their peak. And unfortunately for Wayne Pivac and Stephen Jones and the coaching team there, mate, they're in transition now. That's ultimately what teams go through.
Yeah, and I think looking at it, Jim, you said it for a couple of years. I remember going into the Six Nations last year, and I'm talking about the 2019 Six Nations, and Jim was like, Scotland are going to dominate Wales. Wales are going to be... I just don't see it. Wales are going to be shit. They end up winning the title.
So there's Gatland, with Warren Gatland.
There's a theme here. Then at the World Cup, it was like, nah, mate, Wales are shit. I don't see it. Semi-finalists could have won the semi against South Africa.
But that's it. They
like Exeter flew under the radar to the Premiership.
Yeah, but listen, in Wayne Pivac's defence, I think when you're taking over from someone like Warren Gatland, who's been at the helm for, 10 years as world head coach, and everything that was ingrained in those players of how Warren ball was played and the strengths that they had, and they had limitations, but they knew how to get results and be damn effective. And then you take Sean Edwards out, and then you bring some new voices in. Wayne Pivac's got a different view of how the game should be played. There's going to be times where the players, and we can all sit here and go, well, they should know because they're international players that are being coached by these coaches day in, day out. But then you've got behaviours that are ingrained in you of how you do things for the last 10 years under a certain coach. And Jim says it's transition. That they've got new players coming into the team, the squad as well. They've had a lot of injuries. I do feel for them because there is a massive expectation, come what may, in Wales that you're competing. You're either trying to win the Six Nations, you're going for the Grand Slam. It's their passion. It's like being an English footballer here. We're, as football fans in England, you think that we should be the best in the world when we're clearly not. And so there's a different level of pressure on the Welsh team. All I'm thinking is some of those Welsh players are probably thinking, thank God there's no crowds at the minute, because they would be getting pelters. The atmosphere in the stadium would be bang average losing to a Scotland team.
They might have won. That was a huge factor. I think we spoke about it last week. The emotion that they draw from the crowd, and I've said it before, heard John Barclay speaking about it. For me, playing at Cardiff and the Millennium Stadium, what it was called then, the Principality now, is one of the best stadium, mate. Yeah. It is. I get emotional when I think about my experiences there, and we know I never won there, and I still say it's one of the best places I've ever played. But it's a difficult one because winning becomes a habit, and that's ultimately what it is. And so does losing. The pressure comes on, and that's why I thought that Scotland might win, because the weight of expectation on this Welsh team, one is that they should have beaten Scotland, or they should beat Scotland, and it's the way that it happens. But also the coaching under Wayne Pivac. Imagine the pressure that he feels. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Maybe he understands that they're under pressure. But again, you look at the profile of the Welsh teams. You've got Lee Halfpenny. He is now at the back end of his career. Not speaking disrespectfully, he is. Phenomenal player. Liam Williams, definitely an opportunity still for him to be a starting Lions player. I think he was brilliant. Jonathan Davis has been injured. Quality player. Owen Watkin, good player as well. Josh Adams been phenomenal for Wales. Dan Biggar, again, Gareth Davis. So they've got good players. But a lot of it now, Rhys Carey, they're in transition. Ella at hooker, again, in transition. Thomas Francis, decent player. Will Rowlands is pretty new to it. Alan Wynne-Jones, we know about him. Shane Lewis-Hughes makes his debut. James Davis, decent player. Faletau, back end of his career. So you look at it now, and then it comes back to my point. Where's the next players coming through that are winning games week in, week out? They're at the top level of the Champions Cup. So, unfortunately, when I picked the Lions 15 during lockdown, I got absolute pelters. Some hate. I got some hate, properly. It was me giving my genuine opinion on where Wales are now. And it goes back to my point again. They've overachieved. Warren Gatland said it before. And I full respect for that. I've never beaten them. Like, every time I went down there, we're going to beat them. Maybe there's something in me that just doesn't rate the Welsh, but there isn't. I think they're phenomenal. I love what they've done, but mate, I love it more that Scotland, that we beat them down there and we deserved it.
Yeah, you did. And the issue with Pivac is, people are actually calling for his head already, aren't they? You've got the defence coach, Byron Hayward. You've got some massive shoes to fill in Gatland and Sean Edwards. They are absolutely adored by the Welsh public and rightly so for what they achieved. But if you're the WRU, there ain't anyone else out there at the minute. Name someone out there that you can go, oh, we'll bring him in, he'll make a massive difference. So you have to back Pivac. He's been part of the furniture in Wales now, obviously through the Scarlets. Stephen Jones as well understands the game. These players have got to be able to develop. And, isn't it mad? A couple of months ago, 6 months ago, people were chatting about Gregor Townsend getting the sack, and now look how positive Jim is about Scotland.
Well, they're talking about him for the Lions.
And rightly so. That is sport. That's where we're at now. And Pivac, he'll get the opportunity, and maybe in the Autumn Nations Cup, he'll get the opportunity. Imagine if they beat England. It's then a feather in the cap, and it's, remember that doom and gloom, that's gone. But the flip side of that, if you lose to Ireland, if you lose to England, and and then imagine if they only squeak past Georgia like Scotland normally do, then there's huge pressure and question marks. But I think you just got to back him and allow him the time. There is a transition. There is a change of tactics on how they play, and the players understand him. They played some reasonable stuff, actually, against England in the Six Nations pre-lockdown. And let's not forget, we're coming off the back of a pandemic. So to jump down his throat now and go, sack him, I think is pretty crazy.
I just want to leave with one thing on this note, because I was at the Glasgow-Leinster game last night. I don't know if I mentioned it. Leinster put a third team out, and you look at the profile of that team, and they were phenomenal. Glasgow had a really good team. And then you look at the Ireland team, you look at the players that they've got coming through. That is what you call a framework of succession in terms of sport. So they've got a framework that works. That Leinster Academy, the school system, is phenomenal, and it goes back. And you asked me about Scotland, where can they go? Scotland don't really have a framework like that. They're putting something in. I don't know enough about Welsh rugby. Hopefully someone can call me out on social media or YouTube or whatever and tell me, where is Wales's succession plan of these players coming through that can get to that level, not just playing rugby, of winning Grand Slams and World Cups? Because that's what it's about. That's now what people in Wales, the number one sport there, it's life. It's not even just sport. It's life to a lot of people there, is where is that succession plan coming in Wales?
Well, we'll get on to your feature in just a minute, Jim, but first, Budgie Smuggler are on board with us again this week to keep your weirder than weird fish stories coming in on social media to be in with a chance to win a pair of limited edition Rugby Pod Budgies. And they've gone and done something extra special this week. They've designed our very own Rugby Pod face masks, haven't they, boys?
Love it, mate. It's a few lads are wearing them. There'll be some lads that don't want to be seen wearing them, or they do, but they won't tell us. And our good mate Zach Holmes over in France, I saw him have my face on his cheek and your face next to my cheek, and whoever face is there.
It's
Andy
a bit
Rowe,
weird,
your face on there?
Yeah, I don't know. How's Andy Rowe got on it?
Mate, yeah, I'm on there. Yeah, right in the middle.
Mate, he loves it. He loves budgies, mate. Sleeps in them.
Well, they're primed and ready to go. Just head to budgiesmuggleruk.com and you'll find them under accessories. And we'll share a link on our social media channels as well. The guys at Budgie Smuggler will be making a donation to our chosen charity for every mask sold. So that'll be going to the Matt Hampson Foundation. So it's a worthy cause, and a big thanks to Budgie Smugglers for all their support. Make sure you go and check them out at budgiesmuggleruk.com. Right, Jimbo, it's your time, your favourite time of the week.
It is, and we took a break last week. The vocal cords were sore from screaming. But they're back, as you just heard then. I mean, that was a great peel back. So it's the riddle. You're going to say it, aren't you, Andy Rowe? Carol's away filming, but she will be back with us soon. So I've just done your
How lovely did Carol look on TV last night?
I didn't see it. I was at the Glasgow Leinster game. You not seen me?
Yeah, no, I didn't. The Pride of Britain Awards. My missus looked at her and said, "She looks stunning." Carol, we miss you.
Did you say that when Carol comes on the podcast that your voice changes? Have you told your missus that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, you haven't. No. What,
Did you tell your missus how sweaty you get?
Well, yeah, she knows. She knows. It's got nothing to do with Carol. It's got to do with the fact that I'm scared that this is going out to the millions and that I struggle with the riddle. And that brings me onto it, Andy Rowe. Riddle me this, lads. Riddle me that, Carol. Wherever you are, we do miss you. You were great on Pride of Britain in 6. I was commentating on Glasgow Leinster. You must have seen it. It's time for Jim will solve it, lads. Almost choked on the tonsil that I didn't have.
All right, first you eat me, then you get eaten. What am I?
First you eat me, then you get eaten. Has this got something to do with me having my blood tests and the stool samples that I had to put in a pot that was literally, you've never smelled anything like, mate, you've never smelled anything like it in your life.
Even worse than a nappy bin.
Mate, I'm telling you now, doing that, well, it's worth it. It might come back, I might have worms or parasites, so it might be worth it.
Jeez.
Anyway, the riddle. First you eat me, then you get eaten. Give me a hint, I don't know.
Think of Johnny Sexton.
Old. Grey.
But don't be horrible. Think of what happened to Johnny Sexton at the weekend.
So he got taken off. It wasn't his choice.
Oh.
Take your clothes off. Right. First you eat me. Is taking your clothes off got anything to do with it?
No. So what happened to Johnny Sexton?
He got taken off.
And how could you describe that?
The right decision. I'm joking, Johnny. I'm joking. I don't think he should have been taken off. For FYI. First you eat me. Why is Johnny Sexton? So he's taken off. He's walked off.
Keep going.
He's looked up at the camera.
The process of Andy Farrell taking him off could be classified as
shanking, yanking.
Getting there.
Shanking, yanking. Substituted.
Keep going. Go back to shanking, hanking.
Yanked him off.
Another.
Pulled him off.
Keep going.
Took him off.
Keep going.
Embarrassed him.
It's an Australian kind of. No, it's a lot of Australians use it. Mate, you got
shanked.
Keep going. Yanked, but
I don't know.
When you're on Twitter, here's another one then. When you're on Twitter,
mentions,
right, and
likes,
you put something out there that could be a bit baity.
Click, fish.
Oh.
Fish.
Oh, okay.
Hooked.
Oh, God.
There we go.
Very close.
We're really close.
First you eat me, then you eat me. First
hot.
Fishing rod.
Oh.
Keep going.
Oh, God.
Fish,
what's on the end of a fishing rod?
Hook, net.
What do you?
Oh, net.
Very close.
Fish, net, tights.
You've seen everything but it.
Fish on the end of a hook and the end of a rod.
What?
What's on the end?
Bait.
You've basically said it. We just need the words together.
Maggots.
Just need 2 words, Jim. 2 words that you said.
You've said the words.
Hook net.
One of them's right there.
Hook net.
And it's not net. It's not net. Put a word in front of hook.
What's on the end of a fishing line?
Fish hook.
Yeah!
Fish hook! First you eat me a fish hook, then you get, oh my goodness me. Oh God. Would you say that I solved it, lads? Because I did enjoy that one. That might be my favourite one. No, thank you very much. And that is genuinely my favourite one, lads. Riddle me this, lads. Riddle me that, Carol, wherever you are. We miss you. I know you miss me. Come on, I Goody speaks to you like this. Jim just solved it, lads.
We'll get on to the good, the bad, and the ugly in just a second. But first of all, the Guinness Six Nations has finished, so we should find out on the Guinness Matchpipe Predictor who has won out of you and Goody. How'd you guys go in the end?
Well,
it's not even close. My fat fingers fucking did it again, didn't I?
Tell me why. Tell me why you think you struggled.
Well, I meant to press Scotland, but I pressed Wales to win. I meant to press France, but I pressed Ireland to win. So it was just bad vibes. My fingers, I'm going to slim down, and hopefully my fingers slim as well for the Autumn Nations Cup, because the Guinness Match Point Predictor is back for that, and I'll be pulling your pants down, Jim.
I'm very happy. Well, we'll see. It is game on. Just predict Scotland to win it, then you might be near the top. I'm very happy.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I'm very happy. Very happy, because I've proved myself wrong.
So you should be, Jim. And I'm going to tip my slipper to you. I'm going to mention you in the Goode as well for this, because you finished 113th out of 4,500 people.
Wow.
That's phenomenal, mate.
Just say that again.
You finished 113th out of 4,500 people.
I'm good. I'll blow me mind sometimes. I'm good.
Mate,
I might not be great at a riddle, but I know me ruggers.
Well, there's some good news for you, Goody, because they are starting afresh now. A new tournament and new teams means a new table. All private leagues will be set back to 0 and everyone gets to go again. We're going to be playing this right the way through December for the upcoming international games. To play, just download the Matchpoint app from all good app stores and predict the winner and margin of each game. Make sure you join our league using the code RugbyPod as well. All right, Goody, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Goode, plenty of Goode as ever in the world of rugby. And we'll start off in Scotland. This will make Jim very happy. A first win away in Wales in the Six Nations since 2002. And as we heard earlier, Jim said he never won in the Six Nations down in Wales, but a massive performance by them, even if it was a bang average game. We'll go over to France now, and their best finish in the Six Nations since 2011. They get a mention in the Goode. Anton Dupont was just ridiculous. All Six Nations. Gregory Aldrit as well. Man of the match in all 3 home victories. So some massive performances from them. Where else should we go? Andy Rowe, we're going to go over to New Zealand.
Yes.
Because that was what, well, not in New Zealand, obviously it was in Australia. They fully pulled the Aussies' pants down, didn't they?
They did. It was lovely.
Mate, it was like a training run for them. The biggest ever victory over the Aussies, New Zealand. They were phenomenal. Now we'll go over to Ireland and a little bit of Guinness Pro 14 action. Well, all the Irish provinces, not all of them. We can't say all of them because it wasn't Connacht. But Munster, Leinster and Ulster all won at the weekend. So they all played for, won for. So pretty good from them. Let's give some players I mentioned, really, because some massive milestones at the weekend. Firstly, a couple of first caps. Ollie Lawrence, big shout out to him. Tom Dunn as well. That was pretty good to get your first cap and very emotional. But Ben Youngs, 100 caps for England and a man of the match performance. And Cian Healy, 100 caps for Ireland. A phenomenal record for both players. A couple of other mentions of first caps. Johnny Hill, big fan of the show, big friend of the show. Great to see him get his first cap. And also Ollie Thorley as well, the man that knows no other speed except top speed, 120% or whatever they call him. Great to see him get his first cap as well. Where are we going to go with the Goode this week? We're not going to give it to Alun Jones because they lost, but Alun Jones does get a mention. A phenomenal effort to break the record for the most test caps ever, moving past the great Richie McCaw onto 149 test caps. Next weekend, I'm sure we'll get his 150th, so a massive achievement for Alun Jones, even though Jim's berated him earlier on. But the Goode this week can only go to one place, and it's the whole of England rugby. Not only did the men's team win the Six Nations title, but the women also won the Grand Slam. England are in a great place on both the men's team and the women's team. England rugby, the Goode this week. Of course we do. The bad. A few bits of bad, actually. We're going to start off over in France, as we always like to stick a bit of French in there. Agen lost 71-5 at Bordeaux at the weekend in the top 14. Who takes 70 points? Well, I'll tell you who. Saracens nearly did at the Ricoh Arena back in February for people that remember that game when they lost to Wasps. But 71 points to 5, that's an absolute shocker. What else was bad? Scarlets against Edinburgh, 6-3 victory for Edinburgh. Enough said on that. That was just a shocking game of rugby. The Ospreys, they're pretty bad, losing away at Zebra after we thought they'd turned a corner. It was not a great performance, so they'll be massively disappointed with that. What else was bad? We saw news this week come out that the 2020 and 2021 season has been canned for all level 3 and below rugby clubs. So as part of the Rugby Pod, we're thinking of you. We know around the local clubs and all up and down the country, you listen to the pod. We're thinking of you. It must be tough that all those leagues have been canned because of the coronavirus. So do whatever training you can do, and I'm sure we'll be back to normal for the following season when you'll love rugby even more than you do at the minute. So keep your skills up in the garden, boys and girls. Keep your skills up in the garden, boys and girls, because rugby will be back. But massively bad news for everyone that they've canned any rugby below level 3 for the 2020-2021 season. What else was bad? The Wales-Scotland game. Jim ain't going to agree with me with that, but it was pretty dour. And Wales, you've lost 5 games on the spin now, so not great for Wayne Pivac, but that doesn't win the bad. There's only one place to go for the bad this week, and it's the Aussies. It's Australia. They've lost to the All Blacks. It's their biggest ever defeat. They got their pants pulled down in Sydney. A shocking performance. The All Blacks were brilliant. The Aussies were bad. And that is why Australia, you get the bad this week. The ugly. There's only one real bit of ugly for me this weekend.
Johnny Hill's beard.
And it's not Johnny Hill's beard. It is ugly still. I thought he'd get rid of it for his first cap. So he gets a mention. Of course it does. But the ugly this week goes to a certain commentator, Brian Moore. There's been uproar on Twitter after his comments when Cian Healy was thrown up and being sick. He joked about bulimia. Not good, Brian. You went to the BBC. You shouldn't be joking about bulimia. Horrific form from Brian Moore. So you get the ugly this week.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Goody. And thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to hit subscribe on whatever platform you get your podcasts on. Leave us a review and check us out on YouTube as well.